Hi, we are happy to welcome Leonore Gewessler, the Austrian Minister for Climate Action, Environment, Energy, Mobility, Innovation and Technology. Austria has been leading Europe by using renewable energy for power generation. Also, the country announced a very ambitious commitment to become carbon neutral by 2040, 10 years ahead of the common goal set by the European Union. In addition to that, Austria is also advancing its hydrogen program, aiming to become the hydrogen #1 nation. Minister Gewessler, welcome to Davos Energy Week.
Thanks a lot for having me, and looking forward to our discussion.
Without much further ado, I have the first question for you. We all know that the end of 2020 for you was also the end of implementation of a 10-year energy strategy announced back in 2010. Please, we know that some of the goals set have almost been reached ahead of schedule. What are the key results of this 10-year plan?
So, of course, the Austrian government has shaped and tailored its energy strategy with a view to achieving these goals. And as for beginning of 21, where are we now? I think we'll do a just on point landing in terms of the emissions. We'll achieve our renewables goal, but we also have to be honest and see that our emissions and also the share of renewable production has stagnated over the last 5 years. So this, for me, is a clear indication that we need to step up our efforts and step up also our ambition. So that's also why we work in this field a lot. You mentioned we have a good starting position. Our renewable share in the electricity sector is well above 70%. But so that means we need our new ambitious goal, which is to achieve 100% electricity by renewables by the year 2030. So in our new program and with the new government, we work currently on a Renewables Deployment Act, which will be key for achieving this target. So we know we need to add an additional 27 terawatt hours on production capacity in renewables. But we also made sure we do this in a targeted, systemic approach. So we set specific goals for the different renewable technologies. And for example, we want to reach our 100% renewable electricity by adding another 11 terawatt hours of photovoltaics, 10 terawatt hours of wind production, 5 terawatt hours of hydro, and 1 terawatt hour of biomass. Additionally, of course, and I think we'll maybe come back to these points in the discussion, we need to focus on energy efficiency, on storage of renewable energy. You mentioned hydrogen already, one of the innovative solutions we can use for this, but also we also need to have a look at adjusting the energy market and obviously also updating the energy grid to be fit for the energy transition.
Good. And your next steps are outlined in the National Plan for Climate and Energy, which implementation just started in 2021. What are the key steps and priorities for this year?
So I'm very happy to be part of a government that made climate action and the energy transition really top of the political agenda. And the current energy and climate plan was still developed by the previous government, so it was handed in to the European Commission in 2019. However, with the new government program, we stepped up our ambition and we want to reach climate neutrality already by 2040. So, of course, this will also require a number of adjustments to the National Energy and Climate Plan. What I can tell you now, what will be my focus in the next 12 months. So, for sure, to get the Renewable Deployment Act finalized and in implementation, we're working on a new energy efficiency law, a new heating law, renewable heating law, a new climate action act, improving our investments for e-mobility and public transport, as well as we've started a renovation wave, so refurbishment of buildings as a key factor also. And apart from that, we also have on our agenda an eco-social tax reform. Many of you will probably agree one of the key pillars in climate action. So maybe we can get back to that later also. And I want to mention also at this point that Austria is very ambitiously engaged also in the European discussions. We have agreed at the EU level to a new ambitious climate goal, at least minus 55% CO2 reduction by 2030 in the Council. So we want to steer this climate law through to final implementation, then also make sure in all the legislative acts that follow, we are true to this ambition. And of course, whatever will be the development at the European level, that will also mean, again, changes to the national efforts and to our national plans. But loads of work to do.
Exactly. One of the widely discussed transport innovations was 123 climate ticket. Can you please tell us more about this project and how it's going to affect people's habits on transport and the emissions on the macro level?
I think many of us policymakers share the state of affairs that the mobility sector is a bit our trouble child in emissions, or the sector that worries us most, and sometimes also counteracts advancing or progress in other sectors. So that is where in Austrian mobility policy, walking, cycling, e-mobility, but most of all also public transport come in. And the 123 climate ticket is one really essential building block in making public transport, in making climate-friendly mobility the number one, the easiest, the most effective, the most comfortable form of mobility for people in Austria. So the basic idea is very simple. You have one ticket, which enables you to use all public transport. So every bus, every tram, every train, every subway in the whole country. The ticket will have 3 different stages. So 1, 2, 3. 1 is a ticket that's valid for one region. 2 is a ticket that's valid for the 2 neighboring regions. And 3 will be the Austria-wide ticket. So 1 ticket for all public transport in all of the country. And we are set to implement the first stage of the ticket, the Austrian-wide ticket, in 2021. It's I usually say something like it's a little revolution in public transport in Austria. We've been planning for this a long time, so I'm very happy that we are so far in the implementation process, because it is really one of the key building blocks of comfortable and efficient public transport. Next to good infrastructure, a good service and offer on the infrastructure, we need a good, affordable, easy ticket, and we're working on that.
Thank you. In your recent interview, you also announced some plans for more ecological tax system. Can you please provide more details on this?
Indeed, making the tax system a lever for climate action, I think, is also a project many of us share in policymaking. So we agreed in our government program to a stepwise approach. So we started already in 2020 with a reform of the flight ticket levy and a reform of the standard fuel consumption tax, which focuses on including in particular maybe the focus on SUVs. We just recently had new numbers from the IEA that tell us this is the sector in mobility that in terms of CO2 emissions performs worst. So we focused in our reform of the tax, especially on this sector. But the next big project is, in the second step, a comprehensive approach to CO2 pricing. So revenue neutral CO2 pricing, also combined with measures to use the income as a benefit to the people and to the companies and to climate action. But the next step is due to be implemented in 2022 with a CO2 pricing system in Austria.
Good. And based on the steps that you're planning, what are the new business opportunities of energy transition in Austria that you anticipate being created by your government policies?
I'm convinced, and this is also the title of this in the title of the Davos Energy Week, that building back now after these incredible crises, health crisis, with all the ensuing social and economical disruptions that we face now, building back better, building back towards climate action, towards energy transition is our key chance, is the opportunity for not only future well-being and a stable climate, but also for a stable economy and economic chances that we can use in Austria, but also in Europe. So in terms of, if I focus on the energy transition, if I look at the Renewables Deployment Act, that's almost finished and that we plan to steer through the parliamentary process soon, we see that in the installation and the application, in the distribution of renewable energy production, there will be a lot of opportunities. So I expect plenty of new business opportunities, both in services as well as in the industry. But I think if we look at at what energy transition entails, I think we need to have two more aspects in mind. One is information. Information will be key for successful implementation. So we need energy advisors, energy contractors. We need people who facilitate the implementation of energy communities. So there will be a lot of services necessary for the energy transition. And on the other hand, one aspect that's very dear also to my heart, we need to look at our skilled labor force. So we need electricians, we need mechatronics, we need renewable energy technicians. They are all pivotal for actually implementing on the roof the PV installation. So we really need to have a look at also the skilled labor workforce that we need, and where there's a lot of chances also for employment in these sectors in the near future. And last but not least, it's a big chance for the industry. I'm convinced that the production of renewable energy technology, the development of renewable energy technology should ideally be done in proximity to where it's actually used. So there's also a lot of, so the energy transition and climate action in general can be one of the key drivers also for a new industrial strategy for Europe or for Austria. And that holds true if you look at the heating sector as well as the mobility sector. Austria, to give you an example from another sector, is in the top 5 countries of the train industry in the world. So you see what potential there is even for a smaller country.
Yeah, true. What are the incentives you're creating for the private sector on renewables, and how much of private investment do you expect to galvanize in the next 2 years to fulfill the mission of 2030?
I think if we look at the starting points, I think it's very clear the investments in our economies, in our societies that we will need for reaching our 2030 goal cannot be done only by public money. We need to leverage private money in order to achieve that goal. So in Austria, we put a number on this still in our old energy and climate plan. We need investments of 17 billion euro per year to manage the transition. So as you can see from this number only, we need private investment in this. So my task is to make sure that all of the political framework conditions that we put for it actually enable these investments. Coming back to the Renewables Deployment Act, we intend to invest in the sector 1 billion euro per year, which of course will leverage private investment in the energy transition. So that is, for example, the 1 million roof program, where we want to make sure that we generate PV installations in 1 million homeowners, but also industrial sites, roofs in Austria. And so the investment there goes from really small scale private investment to larger scale PV installations. And I think for private investments, one instrument that will be key in the energy transition or in the renewable deployment law is the energy communities. because they offer a whole new world of opportunities for private persons to come together, to produce energy, to consume energy together, to invest in energy generation together. And this will not only be good for leveraging financial investment, but I think energy communities are also a big investment in social acceptance of the energy transition. And so I think this is really key. And apart from that, we have a lot of we have also initiatives, for example, for the energy intensive industry, to help them in the transitioning process, because also we need to really have a look at the whole range of actors that we need to steer through this transition.
Exactly. Thanks. Well, and from a series of the documents the programs of the government, we know about Austria's ambition to become the #1 hydrogen nation. We are also anticipating your national hydrogen strategy to be released soon. Would you be able to share any details of it?
I can give you a brief overview because, of course, hydrogen will be an important part of the energy transition. And so the Austrian hydrogen strategy, in accordance with our goal of climate neutrality 2040, will, of course, focus on renewable hydrogen exclusively, and will also target application of renewable hydrogen in hard-to-abate sectors, such as the steel industry. I think we also share this challenge Europe-wide, globally, and other branches of energy-intensive industry. And I know there's always a big discussion on hydrogen in the mobility sector. For me, it's very clear the bulk part of the mobility sector, especially in private mobility, the course of the day will remain electrification. So that's quite clear that this is where the road is going. But also in the mobility sector, we have hard-to-abate sectors where hydrogen will play a role. Think of aviation, think of shipping, think of heavy good transportation in long distance. So we know that in the beginning of this developing of a hydrogen industry, we need special incentives to actually get it going. So we're also looking at how can we best support, subsidize electrolytic hydrogen production facilities, as well as to work around network charges to promote also the electrolysis projects. So the long-term goal is to really establish renewable hydrogen value chains in Austria with an adequate infrastructure to provide affordable renewable hydrogen to our industry, to our energy-intensive consumers, while simultaneously, and I think we also shouldn't lose that out of sight, while simultaneously harnessing the potential of electrolyzers, the potential of renewable hydrogen in the power grid for energy storage and also for network regulation. And I think these is two functions that we hardly talk about, but that are highly relevant in the development of a hydrogen industry in Austria, in Europe.
Right. And Minister Gewessler, your mandate is very broad, so you're also in charge of innovation. Can you please tell us more about the opportunities that your program will create for energy technology businesses, including startups inside the country and abroad?
So indeed, research and innovation are key, because what we are doing at the moment is basically we're reinventing our energy systems. We're reinventing the way we produce, we consume towards our goals of 2040 and 2050 at the European level. So I'm very happy that in the Austrian stimulus package that focuses quite intensively on climate action, we also managed to get in a substantial budgetary increase for research and innovation. So we have an additional 300 million euro for the next 3 years in our budget for research, technology and innovation. So what we are doing here is we're raising the budget of existing tools so that we can go rapidly into implementation, but also we're working on new specific thematic programs in the field of energy, environment, circular economy, to really kick off also some new R&D initiatives that we need in order to tackle the challenges of the future. But I think there's only, as I said earlier, what we're doing now is we're reinventing the energy system in many ways. But the best way to do so, and the best way to make this a success, is actually to be courageous and to actually shape it. And that's what we're doing through a lot of the instruments we've just discussed in the last 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Minister, I'm very thankful for your time and for sharing your insights with us. It was great having you here, and thanks a lot for joining us here in Davos.
Thanks a lot for having me, and I wish you all still very good discussions in the next days and hours.